What's up, YouTube? Hello, it's James, and we're joined today by our second place finisher at the Edison Legends tournament, who was using a really insane deck, Absolute Zero, placed a lot of slots in the top 16, but his build obviously did the best. So, Silchas, am I pronouncing this right?
Yep, Silchas.
SilchasRuin, my man.
hmm
So, explain a little bit. What is this? What are we looking at here? Why'd you choose to bring Absolute Zero, and what is your experience with Edison format up until this
All
point?
right. So I'll start with my experience with Edison format. I played during the Edison format online. I didn't play much in real life at that point. Don't play any in real life now. Um, until since Edison format, I hadn't played in Edison format itself, though I'd played in a lot of the formats that went before it, after it, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I didn't start playing actual Edison until about a week before the tournament. A friend messaged me about the tournament. I thought, well, that seems cool. Let's see what I can come up with for it. So I looked over the decks that had already had representation before, played around with a few of them. Wasn't quite happy with any of them, so I thought about what wasn't there, and I'm like, you know what? I like playing decks that play malicious. So let's try an absolute zero deck because we only got one destiny draw, so gotta make it. I gotta make the hero cards count, right?
Good shit, dude. Good shit. No, that this deck is really sweet. I'm a big fan. Um, I've got one really big pressing question for you. What is your favorite flavor of milkshake? Silchas Ruin.
Okay, chocolate.
Mm. I am
Let's get
drinking
it.
a chocolate milkshake right now, and this deck to me,
Good read.
it's like
Good
a
read.
it's like a really nice chocolate milkshake. Was there any card for you that you really thought overperformed or did really well for you in the
Um,
tournament?
let's see. Well, honestly, it'll sound save it. Future Fusion just like opening that card just makes all of your plays come live. It just starts you off so well. So Future Fusion is just huge in this deck. Um, and then obviously this Miracle Fusion, but a lot of this deck is meant to just be. I'm playing a bunch of three ofs, so I'm trying to maximize what cards I really like. I really like them. Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, honestly, that's a huge card that just. There's a lot of times where Phoenix Wing Wind Blast will just stack a card on top of your opponent's deck. It's flexible, and when it does that, a lot of times they just draw him back into the same card. They can't do anything. So, yeah.
Good shit.
Cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask you also about the Upstart Goblins. I mean, I also played them this tournament, and the top three players, all remaining three Upstart. So, for the people still on the fence, can you sell them on it?
All
What
right.
was it good for you?
So
Did you stick with it?
my logic for all Upstart Goblin is that one, I want to cut my deck down to the slimmest possible margin where I'm just playing the best cards.
Sure.
Upstart Goblin means you're effectively playing a 37 card deck. It does mean your opponent can be effectively playing anywhere from 9,000, 10,000 life points. So for me, I decided that's a reasonable cost since my deck doesn't generally win over the case of like two pushes. It usually takes a couple. It can mean that you put your opponent on a bit longer clock, but I think that's a reasonable trade-off for giving yourself more consistent access to your power cards, trying to get to your Miracle Fusion plays more consistently, get your Strato starters more often, see Future Fusion more. Just in general, I think those are important. You can also thin the deck out before you play Upstart Goblin, like summoning Diva, search your Gilman out so you no longer have the Gilman stuck in your deck, that kind of stuff. So,
Speaking
yeah.
of power cards, you elected not to play Dark Arm Dragon, which
Yes.
is do you want to comment on that? Is there
Yeah. So the specific reason for that is because in this deck, and especially this particular build, the only darks I'm actually running are Caius, Infernal Prodigy, Molly, Dasher, and Sangan. Of those darks, you've got Caius, Molly, Dasher, who are all cards I'm going to need something to get them out of my hand if I draw them, to get them into the graveyard. No, or like I'm going to have to Tribute Summon Caius, I'm going to have to Destiny Draw or Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, a Dasher or a Molly. I have Future Fusion now out. But again, a lot of times with this deck, you can get to 2 Darks in Graveyard pretty easily. You can get to 3 moderately easily, but the main problem is a lot of times you won't have that until 2 or 3 turns in, and a lot of times at the same time you'll have wanted to play a Miracle Fusion first. If you
Right.
have Dark Armed in your hand and Miracle Fusion, you got 2 Darks in the graveyard. You're like, do I wait to try and get the 3rd Dark in graveyard, or do I go ahead and Miracle Fusion now to try and go ahead and push with Absolute Zero? And just for me, I found that sometimes I'd be like, I want to make Dark Armed live. I think I can make it live next turn if I don't play Miracle Fusion now. And then I didn't play Miracle Fusion the next turn. I get messed up because I didn't commit, and suddenly now everything's coming at me. Or I played Miracle Fusion last turn, I draw Dark Armed, and now I've got no Darks in my graveyard, and I'm like, well,
For sure.
eh.
I could see how
But
that could be
it just-
awkward.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Totally.
I think the last thing I really wanted to ask you was about your matchups and your side deck. You don't need to go
Yeah.
through every single one, but I was just curious if you could say what side cards worked really well for you, like what matchups you were worried about.
Oh, yeah. So MVP side deck card is probably Vanity's Fiend, really. Like, that card is just versus certain decks, like anything with frogs. Vanity's Fiend is great versus, especially if they're not on Soul Exchange, but just and stuff like fish, it's really good versus. It's pretty good versus Diva Frogs. Like, generally, it's actually pretty much great versus them. The only thing you're really worried about is Soul Exchange versus them. Frog Monarchs, a little bit less good because they're more likely to play Soul Exchange and stuff. But it's really, really good versus like the Turbo Dragon deck. Like,
Sure.
I know I just straight up won. I think I did on stream where I had Vanity's Fiend. They can't do anything. Like, they need Lightning Vortex to deal with it otherwise. What can they do? I was siding Gores. It's a debatable card. I think you could certainly main deck it. I decided to side deck it mostly just because I was like, I like opening Future Fusion a lot, and I'm like, if I have Future Fusion and Gores, that's a bit awkward. But that might be a bit of a case of I'm hoping I'm drawing really well more, but still, Gores is really good versus certain decks like Vayu Turbo, and obviously stuff like Fish or Turbo Dragons as well. Any deck that's going to try and blow me out in one turn, I won't Gores. I was siding Starlight Road for like Black Wings was actually the main deck I had sided that for, since it can hit Icarus attack on there. I didn't want to side in versus anything that wasn't going to have multi-destruction out. That was like just Heavy Storm for multi-destruction. I'm not that worried about Heavy Storm in this. And then the other stuff, Chain Disappearance, is pretty standard, like anything that runs frogs. Lightning Vortex is actually pretty nice versus more aggro style decks, like that with like versus Vayu Turbo, since they oftentimes have multiple monsters on board. And also versus anything I'm siding in Gores was siding in Gores versus I was generally siding in Lightning Vortex. Says as long as I can survive a turn, Lightning Vortex will let me break a board.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
Good stuff, dude. Good stuff. Congratulations on your top. You had to fight a lot of challenging players to get to where you got to. Was there one match for you that you felt like, wow, this is hard? Like,
Yeah, so there was actually a match versus I believe it was versus a frog guy, and I ended up, I think he was playing Diver Frog. Yeah, I ended up winning that one with a Gores token with 1200 attack and a Molly with 800 attack, but because he had 2800 life points, and I had those 2 cards attack him directly for 2000, and Phoenix Wing Wind Blast to bounce his next card and win with Molly attacking directly. And that was like, yeah, it was pretty cheeky there. I didn't really have much going in that game. I lost like everything in that game, the main Gores, all that sort of stuff. So I was just down to the Molly and that, and I was just like try and poke to finish things off before he could get something going. So
Out there.
sounds very good. Is there any like closing remarks Closing remarks?
Yeah, I'd just say like I didn't talk about any, but Infernal Prodigy is honestly it's a really big card in here because it does a lot of stuff with like Caius. It makes your Caius plays really easy. He, um, it's also like you can search it with Stratos. You can do some pretty neat Diva plays. Haze with it. It can be effectively with Diva. You can get over to a level 6. You can go to a level 7 with it. You can do like a Armory Arm play. Actually, that was one of the cool plays I did. I think it was also versus Diva Frogs that they had like was able to just go and send Molly. I think with Future Fusion, summon Infernal Prodigy, and then it was Diva into Diva, and then you have Armory Arm Colossal Fighter
Oh, that's
right there.
sick.
Yep,
That's super
nice.
cool combo. Yeah, very clean.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, yeah. If you so it's very easy if your opponent's thinking they're being clever or something on you and they're in a bit of a bind, but they've got a monster up like that, you can just boom,
Yeah,
straight
easy.
to the win.
Snap it off.
So
Anyways,
but yeah.
that's fucking sick. Really, really cool stuff. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for doing this
Oh, yeah.
interview, Silchas. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
no
it.
problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I'd love to see you more in future events. So good luck there. And congratulations one more time. If you guys like this interview, make sure and like, comment, subscribe. You know the vibes. Peace out, YouTube.